Good evening. My name is Jim Srood. I'm the superintendent here at Northern Burlington. It's my pleasure to welcome everybody here this evening on behalf of the Northern Burlington County Regional Board of Education. This is, if you see in the program, this is our 10th annual Athletic Hall of Fame. And I have the privilege and the pleasure to be among the committee when we first started the Hall of Fame here at Northern Burlington. And honestly, over the 10 years, it's been such a pleasure to come to these events, to now see some of our regulars who come and support, some of the students that were at Northern Burlington and now are in the Hall of Fame, their parents, the friends that have been made and just continue to grow every year. How many people here this evening are past inductees of the Hall of Fame that are here just to honor those being inducted this evening? If you're a past inductee, could you raise your hand? Very good. Very good. I'd like to take a moment and recognize the Hall of Fame committee. Mr. Jewel Dulce, please stand. Bob Dyson. Art Gore, did I see? I haven't seen Art Gore. Is Art here, please? Chris Haynes, please stand and remain standing. Tom Engling, I saw Tom. Hank Kearns, Senior. Remain standing, remain standing. Jack Lucas. Michelle O'Neill. Really, Michelle's really the whole committee. We all just go along for the ride. Jerry Spence. Dan Yazaki, Dr. Yazaki, and Brian Wolverton. So these are the folks that take time out of their day, it's really out of their evenings, meet during the evening, talk about, go over the recommendations, and make sure that this event happens every year. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your help there. We also, I'd like to take a moment, active military. As you all know, Northern Burlington serves the families at Joint Base. Are there any active military or first responders in the audience this evening? Would you please stand so we can thank you for your service? Any here this evening? Retired military. Okay, please stand. Thank you. So we're going to hear I think we might hear a lot of funny stories. A good friend of mine, a past board member, Paul Tutel, came to me earlier this evening. He was reminiscent of all the amazing evenings that he had playing basketball at Northern Burlington, those game-winning shots that he made, and those key steals of defense. And I've noticed over the years, the athletes and the coaches, as they remember things, the stories just get better and better and better. So I'm looking forward to hearing the stories tonight, and hopefully there'll be some truth to what you hear. But at this point, what I'd like to do is introduce Dr. Yazaki, who's going to take over the ceremonies. Dr. Yazaki. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'm going to sit up here on my soapbox for a second and put out my annual spiel. And usually the people listen to me when I say this, but this is truly a great night, especially for those people that are getting inducted. So if you can separate yourself from your cell phones for like the next 2 hours, you will hear and see some amazing things that happen up here. I've had the privilege of being involved in this for the past 6-7 years now, and it just gets better and better every year. I do want to thank a couple of other people before we start our night with Miss Chris Haines. I do want to give some thanks to our video production crew that are in the back. This will be available on our cable channel network later in the year, so we appreciate them coming back. I want to thank Katrina for coming out here. She comes out here every year and does our photography. I do want to thank our staff members that are here, the coaches that were able to make it out. Special thanks to Mr. Dave Potts for doing the awards and Brian for coordinating that. And Jack Lucas, if you read through the program, does a wonderful job on all of those biographies. Jack, I can't imagine how long it takes to do all of that, but I can tell you how long it takes to grammatically check it, and it takes forever. So I want to thank you, Jack, for doing those. Every year, if you read those, the sound of Jack Lucas will come through, especially the 1972-73 basketball thing. So take some time and read that, please. And before we do get started, I want to ask Michelle O'Neill to come up here. Come on up, Miss O'Neill, real quick. Come on. As Miss O'Neill's making her way up here, I do want to just recognize our building principals are here. Dr. Andrew Kearns of the middle school and Dr. Sally Lopez of our high school. I want to thank them for coming out. We're a family. Everybody comes out. Michelle doesn't know that I did this, but this is our 10th year, and for us it's very special.
Aww.
And I do just want to give that to her and thank her. If I ran this Hall of Fame, we'd probably fill the first 2 tables. Okay, seriously. Michelle, amongst the 5,000 other things that I give her to do throughout the day, and I'm sure she likes me right now, but during the course of Monday through Saturday, she hates me. But somewhere in between all of the things that I give her, she coordinates this. This isn't just a bunch of people show up. There's a lot of work that goes behind it, and Michelle O'Neill does 99% of that work. So for this year with our 10th anniversary, I want to publicly thank you for all of your work. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so without further ado, I've realized that the shorter I talk, the better I'm received at the end of the night. So I'm just going to start off with our first award, which will be for Ms. Christine Haines, and she will be introduced tonight by Mr. Jack Lucas. Come on up here, Mr. Lucas.
Good evening. Congratulations to the inductees for the class of 2017, and welcome, and I want a special welcome to the parents and friends and children of the inductees, and also school administrators, coaches, etc., and the drummer and the band. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce Chris. Commitment, honesty, and loyalty, all traits each of us hold dear and expect others to adhere to. These 3 simple words are often uttered to subordinates and players, demanding that these characteristics be adhered to above all others. This, as most of you know, is especially true in sports. We demand our players, those we teach and coach, these principles, to display these principles. Unfortunately, these words are from a generation of yore. In today's world, they oftentimes are just words, especially in collegiate and professional sports. Players and coaches jump from team to team, lie to officials, including the U.S. Congress, with impunity in search of that holy grail. Money and ego. Me. It's a me generation. Our inductee tonight, Chris Haines, abhors me. She has spent her entire professional career at Northern Burlington and is the standard bearer of these 3 simple words: commitment, honesty, loyalty. She has spent 35 plus years at Northern, a benchmark for today's aspiring coaches and educators. She did not move on. Her commitment was here. Throughout the years, Chris and I have had a few spats on certain matters, but one thing I would never question was a reason to do what she professed. Her only lapse in honesty is moving her golf ball to improve her lie, or inaccurately reporting her score. How her bogeys became par is unbeknownst to me. Loyalty is a two-way street. You reap what you sow. In all the years we have worked together, Chris was always there in thick and thin. today's phrase is, she has my back. These three words, commitment, honesty, and loyalty, are to me the linchpin of her successes. She has had many, at the team level and on a personal level. Before I address these, allow me to mention a few things that are not included in her bio. Chris organized home and away field hockey games with our Mansfield counterpart, Mansfield, Massachusetts. She conducted elementary school field hockey clinics to promote the sport. Chris was instrumental in establishing an outdoor education program for at-risk students. And let us not forget Chris's great effort in organizing, planning, and administering the Northern Burlington MS Penny a Vote campaign for a truly worthy cause. As with others of this generation, she grew up without the opportunity to participate in organized sports for girls. Her initial involvement was as a bat girl for her father's baseball team. Upon entering Pemberton High School, opportunities were still limited. And it was not until her junior year, aside from girls soccer, that sports opportunities were offered for girls. She was, however, the Pemberton Hornet, or Busy Bee don't applaud, or Busy Bee mascot for 2 years. I can just close my eyes and see Chris running around in that green and white suit going buzz, buzz, buzz to everybody in the gym. Those little green wings were a-flapping. Fortunately, during her final years at Pemberton, opportunities opened and she participated in field hockey, basketball, and softball. After a year's hiatus, Chris entered Glassboro State College, now Rowan University, and played 3 sports and graduated with a degree in physical education. Her first and only job was the one she held until retirement at Northern. Her first coaching opportunity came as a volunteer field hockey coach for Hall of Famer Sandy Cronick. Like a caterpillar breaking out of the cocoon, Chris soon spread her blue and gray wings and embarked on a storied career. Her successes are many. As a coach, her teams were BCSL Freedom Division champions in girls basketball, NJSIAA group champions, as well as BCSL champions in softball, NJSIAA group Central Group 2 champions in field hockey. My guess is there are very few coaches in New Jersey who can lay claim to having won 3 championships in 3 different sports. With these accomplishments, personal accolades follow. Burlington County Times Coach of the Year in girls basketball, Burlington County Times Coach of the Year in softball, NJSIAA Award of Honor in softball, NJSIAA Hall of Fame inductee, induction into the South Jersey Coaches of Women's Sports Hall of Fame, and the South Jersey Coaches Hall of Fame. She was also inducted into the Pemberton Township Hall of Fame. As an educator, Chris was a teacher, a coach, substance abuse coordinator, and athletic director. Since retirement, Chris has been working with Liddell Realtor and just recently has been appointed interim athletic director at Florence High School. This, dear friends, brings us to tonight. Tonight is a special night for the 2017 inductees, as it was for previous inductees. It marks the 10th year that former athletes and friends of Northern were so honored. The idea of such an event had been bandied about for a number of years, but it was in 2008 that it came to fruition. The genesis of that night began with Chris. It was Chris who did the legwork, putting in the long hours, organizing a committee, selecting site events, and addressing myriad other details that made it the success that it is. We all share in this wonderful night, But without Chris, none of this would be occurring. Tonight, it is our turn to honor Chris, who truly deserves all the accolades, and to say thank you for being something more. Chris.
First of all, let me thank the Northern Burlington Athletic Hall of Fame members, Michelle O'Neill, Dr. Zaki, Tom Engling, Bob Dyson, Art Gore, Dr. Shruta, Jack Lucas, Brian Wolverton. When we started this program, actually 2006, it took us 2 years. We weren't the quickest people on earth. But, you know, we wanted to recognize people for the contributions they gave to Northern Burlington sports. So I'm very pleased to be part of that program. I want to thank Jack Lucas. That's all I want to say. Jack has been a mentor for me. He's been like actually the father, and I hope I was the daughter that he never had. Also, I want to thank some coaches. When I came to Northern Burlington, there was not a coaching position to be had, but Sandy Chronic allowed me to help out in field hockey. Donna Hobson helped me out in basketball. Charlie Perello showed me what it meant to be committed to a sport. Hank Kearns was my Dan Riley. He showed us how we could get the girls stronger by lifting. Assistant coaches. Penny Kearns, we sat at a restaurant using the salt and pepper shakers and anything else we could find to show her how field hockey should be played. Kate Lasko, another assistant field hockey coach for me. Poetry in motion, explains it all. I want to thank the players, and thank God for Facebook, because I can see how they have grown as successful women. Doctors, lawyers, and that's just the Tomaso family. Seriously, the girls I coach have grown to be very successful women, and I hope I had influence somewhat on that process. To be successful as a coach, you need to have good parents, dedicated parents, and I surely appreciated that. Over the years, I've had many. The Matoses, who bought our kilts, the Grips, who are here tonight, the Shanes from Chesterfield, the Archer, and I have to tell you, Dusty would have been here, but she was afraid to challenge me to the push-ups because she's due next month with her third child. The Blazies, the Baileys, just to mention a few. Athletic trainers. I can remember coaching before we had trainers, and it was not the easiest thing to do. Eileen Boker was my first athletic trainer at Northern Burlington. She not only helped our athletes, she helped me when my knee went bad. Our current athletic trainer, Erin Searfoss-Hallion, she saw me 1 year as a coach, didn't like it, preferred for me to be the athletic director instead. I also want to thank the friends that attended tonight. I tell you, when I saw this man come through the door, he is an inspiration, Russ Kenny. Annie Wood, thank you very much for coming. Her daughter Abby, if you talk to her and you ask her who got her into field hockey, who was that, Abby? Abby? Okay, so you're welcome, Abby. Also, my golf buddy, and as soon as I get done with the Florence gig, I'll be back on the golf course, Janet Piggott. I also want to thank my family. I have two brothers here tonight, Mart and Rob, and I know you've heard this story before. They would not play dolls with me, so therefore I played sports with them. I have my niece and her boyfriend, Jamie and Jeff, and my sister-in-law, best sister-in-law in New Jersey, Jan. So I want to thank them for coming tonight. In closing, Jack said it, I have to say it too. I want to thank Northern Burlington for letting me to strive to be something more. Thank you.
Here you go, Chris. All right, ladies and gentlemen. How's the volume back there? Is that better? All right, great. All right, so we're going to start this back up again, and bellies are full, and everybody's happy. And I had a great conversation. I had the honor tonight of sitting with Mrs. Haynes over here, and I was letting her know I had a great conversation with her son. And he just seemed so humble and so nice, and all I could think about was there's this guy on the other line who's like twice the size of me who could probably kill me if he really wanted to. Michael Haynes is going to be our next inductee. He's actually in Russia right now, so his mother will be accepting the award by proxy later. But he was a great person to talk to. He actually gave me a little educational lesson on the Russian helmets that are over there. And I think Michael went over, there were close to 100 helmets to give to the Russians. Apparently in their semi-pro leagues, they're still playing with like leather helmets and stuff over there because there are no regs. So that's just part of what he does in addition to the motivational speaking. So we've asked if Coach Perella could say a couple of nice words on Michael's behalf before bringing his mother up here. So Coach Perella, come on up.
Good evening, everyone, and of course, congratulations to all the inductees tonight. It's an honor to be here. Mike Haynes continues to surprise me because I didn't know I was going to introduce him. And Brian Wolverton just reminded me the phone call I got in April of Mike's junior year. I was in the middle school, and I get a phone call, and they said, there's a young man over in the other building. He's 6'3", he's 245 pounds, and he has a pet python. So, can't ask more for a football player than something like that. But Michael came in to Northern, actually, April of his junior year, and walked into the building with his dad. He's the son of Army and Air Force parents. And there's no way we're going to let him go to Pemberton with an Army deal. And of course, being the Air Force. But they actually came into Northern, interesting story, and they were really interviewing us. They went to a number of different schools in the area, and they decided that they were going to come to Northern. And I wish I could say it was because of the football program, but it really wasn't. In the end, in talking to them, it was really more about the school and the academics and the environment and the atmosphere in Northern that really won them over. So, you know, us having Michael was a pleasure indeed, but it really had a lot to do with our school. And I'm grateful that, you know, I was able to be there when Michael was there. Obviously, he was one of the most heavily recruited athletes we ever had at Northern. We had a number of different coaches throughout the country that came in to visit him, Nick Saban being one of them, and eventually Joe Paterno came in and closed the deal because Joe knows how to close deals. But I remember meeting Michael and talking with him, and I said, Michael, we got to get you out there. So we went out to the Penn State camp, you know, prior to his senior year, and we hooked up with a coach out there by the name of Kenny Jackson, and it's history after that. So Michael ended up being think about this, an NFL first round pick, 14th pick overall in the NFL. We've had other NFL players in our program, and hey, I'm proud of every player in our program, but that's quite an accomplishment. Anyway, Michael was just a tremendous young man, and he was a part of the social fabric of the school. He was not only a great athlete, but also a great student. And I wish I had known this earlier. I might have been prepared something a little bit more detailed about Michael. And rather than take up all that time, I'd like to introduce his mom. She's here tonight to accept the award. She's was a big part of our parent groups, our booster clubs. She went on to Penn State, got a PhD there, and is now here to accept the award on behalf of Michael. So, Dr. Catherine Haynes.
Thanks, Coach Barilla. Congratulations to all the inductees. It really is an honor to be here to represent Mike and the family. Being part of Northern Burlington High School was really a tribute to Mike and the high school and what they have to offer. It's like Coach Barilla said, we was going to move into the area, so we tried to look and see where is the best place for him. And even though we looked everywhere, when we walked into Northern Burlington, he knew right away. He looked on the wall, he saw everybody else who was there and the athletes and what they had to offer. Also the academics was really big for Mike. So even as he was deciding what college to go to, he had a spreadsheet. Okay? And he would list the university, what they had to offer, how many people they graduated, what's the graduation rate. So that's the kind of things that he looked for. And he was looking for that because Coach Barillo, pushed on him and pushed the academics. So even though you have the ability to play or to be the athlete, you have to have the academics to go along with it. Because a lot of times we have students, they have one and not the other. So once again, thanks for the opportunity to be here and to represent Mike. And as Coach said, he's in Russia now because, again, he's representing football, and that is part of what our lives are right now. So thank you again.
All right, Michael Haynes, one more time, everybody. Thank you. All right, our next award tonight is going to be going to Miss Amy Hoyer Joy, and presenting the award tonight is her father, Mr. Chris Hoyer.
Good evening. Of course, I'm a little nervous because I have to follow Miss Haynes, number one, Mr. Lucas. That's a tough one. And as parents, when you start having children, you want them to play multiple sports. You don't want them to stick to one sport and say, that's all we're going to do. With Amy, my daughter, we did softball first, and we went through the rec route. And fortunately, she ended up on a team that Bill Morgan's daughter pitched on. Nobody hit the ball, so, which was a good thing, because her and my son were having to catch one day. And she comes into the house and she's got 2 black eyes. And Andy's laughing and Amy's crying, and I look and I said, what happened? She says, Andy threw the ball and I didn't see it and I missed it. And they were only from me to her apart. So we knew softball wasn't the thing. So then she played basketball. And she played up until her freshman year she played. And she was fast, she was feisty. She could kind of dribble if nobody was around her. She would go on numerous breakaways. She would steal the ball, go for a layup, miss the layup. And again, she played on a team that was phenomenal. I mean, it was the Waltons. I can't remember half the girls. But she came home and I said, Amy, you better watch these girls because they throw the ball behind their back, through their legs. You're going to get hit in the face and not get up. So at that point, we decided soccer was maybe something she could stick to And she had a great career playing soccer. She went to Northern Burlington. She started her freshman year, I think it was 2000. Started on the varsity team. One of the first games, we're playing Burlington. And I told her I wasn't going to tell this story because we all were embarrassed. But anyway, we're playing Burlington. It's a big game, and it's under the lights, and it's a close game. All kinds of people are there. And Amy comes out of the game, and she's sitting on the bench, and we're sitting amongst parents, and a couple parents said to me, I think something's wrong with Amy. And I says, I don't think so. They said, well, maybe she's nervous. I says, no, I don't think she's nervous from this. So after a little bit, she gets up, she runs to the woods. Comes running back, they put her back in the game, and I think we ended up winning the game. But after the game, Amy said, God, I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I didn't know what to do. So the girls, games after that, the girls proceeded to point out porta-johns on the way to the soccer field, so we didn't have a problem having to go to the bathroom. But on the serious side, Amy was a 4-year varsity player at Northern. She was named to the Liberty Division first team all 4 years. She led the Liberty Division in scoring twice, named All-South Jersey twice. She was named to the All-State team and gained recognition as MVP of the South Jersey Senior All-Star Game. She was named to the Burlington County Times first team 3 years, Philadelphia Inquirer team. She was the team offensive MVP in her 2000, 2001, 2002 seasons, and the team MVP in 2003. She currently holds the school record for 65 career goals. She continued her career at Monmouth University, where her freshman year she made second team All-Northeast Conference. She was first team All-Northeast Conference 2006-2007, in which 2007 her team was the Northeast Conference Championship. And she was named Northeast Conference Player of the Year. That same year, she was also the Monmouth University Female Athlete of the Year. And then in sports, as in life, it takes a certain individual who's willing to work hard and make sacrifices to succeed in their profession. And I believe Amy has done that. It has been a pleasure watching this. My daughter not only excel in soccer, but also become a young woman. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my daughter, Amy Hoyer.
Thanks, Doug. I would like to thank everyone on the Northern Burlington Hall of Fame Committee for choosing me for this wonderful recognition. This is such an incredible honor and privilege, and something I will always reflect on with great pride. I also want to congratulate the other inductees who are here today. It's an honor to be going in the Hall of Fame with such an outstanding group. I would especially like to thank my high school soccer coach, Miss Jennings, for seeing something in me and giving me the opportunity to play for a varsity team as a freshman. Some highlights I remember were my sophomore year. We made it to the state tournament for the first time in school history. And then in my junior year, we had the best record in the program's history and went even further in states than we did the year before. Being a part of Northern's high school soccer program has had a significant influence on my life and has helped shape me into the person I am today. I will always cherish the memories and friends I made during these years, and want to thank everyone who has supported me, including my teammates, athletic trainers, and teachers. I would most importantly like to thank my parents, Chris and Karen Hoyer, who are both great athletes at Northern. My mom standing out in field hockey and softball, and my dad doing the same with soccer and baseball. I would not be where I am today without their unconditional love, support, and encouragement. They were never too busy to make sure I excelled at something I enjoyed so much. During my high school career, I also played on an elite travel team, as well as the New Jersey State Olympic Development Team. Between all that, my parents always made time to take me to all my practices, games, and tournaments, and even made time for those late nights out in the backyard before dinner when certain skills needed some fine-tuning. I also needed to thank my brother, who was always drug along to games and tournaments when he was younger, even though he always seemed to find a local fishing hole to pass the time. He excelled as well as an athlete at Northern with football and baseball, and growing up with him has helped contribute to my competitive nature. I also want to thank all my family and friends, especially my grandparents and my husband who are here tonight, for their ongoing support in my life. I would like to thank all the incredible coaches I have had throughout my life. From my travel coaches, Terry Irish, Socrates, James Galanis, to my wonderful college coach, Chrissy, and her assistant, Harvey. I've learned so much from each of them. Being able to go on to play soccer at a D1 school like Monmouth University for 4 years was such an incredible experience and one I will never forget. After college, I took my love of the game to training youth travel teams and also becoming the girls' soccer coach at a local high school for 6 years before starting a family of my own. I continue to play on a women's soccer team at a competitive level, but to say I miss playing for a school is an understatement. There is nothing like having that opportunity to play for the name that's on front of your jersey and represent your high school or college, and that I will always cherish. Soccer has been my passion for over 20 years. From all the road trips to soccer tournaments, the late night dinners because of soccer practice, the constant excuse I had of, I'm sorry I can't go, I have soccer, the great friendships I made and the people that I met, the list goes on, and I would not trade any of that because all of these experiences made me who I am today, and I believe that's what sports are all about. They help create a foundation for what type of person you will become later in life, and I couldn't be more thankful or fortunate for the people that I have mentioned for supporting me on this incredible journey. Thank you.
I told Amy I'm sorry for stealing all of her Facebook pictures. Sometimes we don't get like a lot of pictures from the yearbook, so I start social network stalking, and then people come in and you're like, why is there a picture of my baby in the Hall of Fame? Well, that's me, sorry. All right, we're going to do another award, and then after we hear from Mr. Joseph Lynch, we'll take another quick break and allow you guys to go back and get some desserts and coffee. But I'd like to bring up Coach Doug Daniels to introduce Mr. Joey Lynch.
I know I'm old when Amy's dad was my first soccer captain. Man, when I was asked to introduce Joe Lynch tonight, I sat down, I literally wrote out 5 pages of yellow line paper of things that I thought he had accomplished and what he meant to the program. And then I realized that probably the only person who would want to hear that would be Mrs. Lynch, about her Joey. In a nutshell, Joe is being honored because he's responsible for changing the face of Northern soccer. Let me give you a little history. Prior to 1992, we had a lot of great kids, but the soccer program didn't have great soccer players. At least it didn't have enough of them. The new program had won 4 games in 5 years. I was the second coach. How bad was it? Well, the year before Joey came, we gave up, we scored 6 goals and gave up 75. Oh, come on. In 1982, I had a scrawny, lanky freshman with a smirky smile who made the varsity team. He would be the first freshman to make the join our varsity letter and the first 4-year varsity player we ever had. In his freshman year, Joe scored himself 6 goals, along with the others that his teammates scored. But remember, Joe was a defensive player. He always played stopper or sweeper for me. That freshman year, we won 7 games and lost 11. It would be Joe's last losing season. But the change to winning had begun. He became a star defensive player who understood the game, knew where to be, when to make a run, when to mark tight. Simply, he was a player, and he made those around him better. I'm honored tonight that so many of his fellow athletes are here tonight to honor him because they were a part of the whole program with him when it came to turn around. From 1982 to 1985, we won 39 games and tied 6. Joe became my first and only junior captain and a 2-time captain. We made the state tournaments his sophomore year, his junior year, senior year. We went to the finals his senior year. And the thing that was interesting is senior year, we only had 4 seniors on the team. And we were predicted to finish 7 out of 8 in the league. They were wrong. Joe played stellar defense, directing his teammates and always shutting down the opponents. I remember Del Ren had a guy named Peter Verms. Maybe you remember him. He went on to play and became captain of the U.S. Olympic team. Joe shut him down. He and goalie Jeff Calkins limited the opposition to 1.4 goals per game. I keep talking about Joe as a defensive player, as an offensive player. He is a defensive player, but he ranks 4th among all-time scorers in Northern Burlington and 10th in assists, and he played defense. He would make offensive runs. He would pass the ball to Tommy Dwyer, who would give it back to him, and he'd make it run further, and his brother Matt Lynch would give it to him, and he'd make it run further, and then it'd be Jason Barker who would give it to him, and Tommy would take the shot or make the goal, and then he would run back to play defense. We had set plays for corner kicks, because if the ball was near Joe, Joe could put it in with his head. Now, I'm not saying how big his head is, but I'm saying that he was outstanding. He scored 6 head balls his senior year. In his 4 years for me, he took 12 penalty kicks during the regular season and made every one of them. I keep speaking of offense, but remember, he was the best defender I've ever seen. And in the words of the greatest talent evaluator in Northern Burlington history, he was the greatest soccer player that Northern ever had, and that's the words of our former athletic director, Jack Lucas. In his off-season, he earned 3 varsity letters in basketball, 3 varsity letters in baseball. In college, his team went to the national finals. Joe trained as part of the Olympic developmental team. Unfortunately, his career ended due to some injuries. Joe, on my team, was his own person. He brought his unique, friendly personality to practice each day, and his teammates followed him. He even led them, you gotta remember, in 1985, he got the team calling me Dougie Fresh. With this group, with Joe, it was okay. I wasn't going to tell a story, but I am going to tell a story. We're playing Burlington City Parents' Day. It's raining, and we're down by a goal. And Joe scores with 1 minute left in the game to tie the game. And with that, we come back and we start off, and within 20 seconds, Joe gets tripped, and 4 of Burlington City's players jump on top of him and are literally beating the daylights out of him. He's at the bottom of the pile, and being the good coach I was, I held my team back. And so our kids got beat. Well, the referees finally got control of the game. We ended up playing, they ended up having 6 players on the field, and we had 9. We ended up winning the game in overtime, obviously. But I remember when Joey came over, he's all bloodied. Blood's on his shirt. He's coming over, and he says, "Coach, I did throw a punch. I didn't want to get thrown out of the game. I know I needed to play." That's not the part of the story I want to tell you. The part of the story is what happened during that melee. There was a short little lady with an umbrella. And she starts walking out of the field, and she says, "They're hitting my Joey! They're hitting my Joey!" And Mr. Lynch, as little as he is, he's trying to hold her back, and he couldn't. That is one of my fondest memories of ever coaching. It had nothing to do with the player, it had to do with the Lynch family. During my career, I had 2 athletes who went on to become All-Americans in college. They were tremendous. But I'm telling you, if I had a choice, I would pick Joe Lynch any day as my captain. Get me emotional, Joe. He is here today because he was responsible for turning the program around. We had many winners since then, but it all began with Joe Lynch. Joe.
Coach Daniels, thank you so much for that great introduction. On the field, you and I had a great partnership back then, didn't we? We've done it all together, the bus rides, the practices, the overnight camps, the games, the playoffs. But funny that you mentioned it in your speech. We never really had a chance to work together on stage. I don't think we ever were on stage together. Perform in front of a live audience. Back then, as he mentioned, my teammates and I had so much fun with Mr. Daniels and that popular rap song that came out in 1985. So, Coach, would you come back up for a quick second? And let's flash this crowd back to 1985 on the bus. All right, I got it. You remember the song, right? Ricky D, Kicking It Live in 85. All right, I got it. I caught him off guard. I didn't even know he was going to mention it, that he was Dougie Fresh. How about I attempt to entertain the crowd and go solo in honor of Coach Daniels? Huh? Okay, party people in the house. You're about to witness something you've never witnessed before. Who's worried that I can't pull this off? Don't worry. Don't worry. I had Mrs. Watson as my high school drama teacher, the late, great Mrs. Watson. And I'm sure she got Michelle's invite tonight, and she's up there watching out for me like she always did. So, should I take it from the top, Coach? Should I take it from the top? Huh? Why not? Okay, party people in the house. You're about to witness something you've never witnessed before. Yes, it's the original human beatbox, Dougie Fresh. And his partner, the Grand Wizard, MC Ricky D. D, that's me, in the place to be. But when it comes to me and my friend Doug Fresh here, there's no competition because we're the best yet. So listen close so you all don't miss as we go something like this. Hit it. That's when Mr. Daniels used to, from the front of the bus, start his human beatbox. And the whole bus went crazy. So. One day I'm going to get him up here. Next time.
when the committee has me back for baseball. In all seriousness, Mr. Daniels coached us with passion 100% of the time. His dedication was unmatched. He was always the biggest fan, always so encouraging and supportive. Thanks, Mr. Haynes. We'll give him a round of applause. Okay, so I'd like to tell you a short story. And for the record, my psychiatrist seems to believe telling the story tonight is going to make Joe Lynch mentally stronger. So here we go. Back then, playing at Northern Burlington was the most fulfilling and rewarding experience for me. From the first day of my freshman varsity season, all the way through to the second to last day of my senior varsity season, it was just the best. I had so many great experiences on and off the field playing at Northern. You're asking yourself, did he say second to the last day? He did. It's been over 30 years since that day, and I remember it like it was frickin' yesterday. November 7th, 1985. The game, the South Jersey State Final. The site, the game was held at a neutral site, Morristown High School. The opponent, Burlington City, who at the time was our arch rival, our arch nemesis. Remember, that's the team that jumped me the year before. And again, I'd like to thank my mom and her trusty umbrella. Stand up, Mom. Warning, don't ever mess with me, or you'll have to deal with her. There must have been at least 500 people at that game that day. We played to a 1-1 draw at the end of regulation. My brother Matt scored the only goal that day to send us into sudden death overtime. Thanks a lot, Matt. Thanks a lot. We went through 2 overtime periods and the score was still 1-1. We headed to the penalty kicks. And for those who don't know how penalty kicks work, each team gets 5 shots. The team with the most goals wins. After 4 rounds of penalty kicks, the game remained tied. You need a break? I think the camera guy needs a break. Good? We'll take, while he's sorting that out, I need a break. So, does everybody know what a memory ghost is? A memory ghost can go good, and a memory ghost can be bad. A memory ghost is a memory that's so strong, it can never be forgotten. It's like the barn full of hay that takes you back to your first kiss. It's the rap song with the human beatbox that brings you right back to your high school days. Pretty cool ghost, right? You can deal with that. I'm living with them. How about the flip side? The beef brisket that takes you back to the night of uncontrollable dry heaves, where the very smell of it today makes you gag. Or the emergency landing into Newark Airport with no landing gear that has you self-medicating every time you fly. Okay, we're good now. He's back. He's changed his film. So back to the story. I started my slow walk from half field where my exhausted teammates were huddled to take the final penalty kick for NBC. As I made my way towards the opposing goaltender, I started telling myself, I'm going left. I'm going left, like I always do. Piece of cake. You've never missed a penalty kick in your entire career. Joe. There must have been close to 1,000 people on hand at that point, or at least it felt that way. As I set the ball up on the 12-yard line and prepared for my kick, I remember thinking, I want to take this shot, good or bad. The pressure was on my back and not my teammates. I took the shot. I went left all right. I hit the left post and the ball ricocheted directly across the mouth of the goal into the grasp of the goalie's arms. It was as if my heart was ripped out of my chest. It was Burlington City's turn and their chance to win the game. My opponent took his penalty kick, hit the ball in the exact same post, but this time skimmed past the post and ended up in the back of the net. Game, set, match, Burlington City wins. The isolation and the loneliness immediately set in. It kept me away from my family, my teammates, my friends, my strangers. I just wanted nothing to do with be alone. I just wanted to find a cave and tunnel to hide. It literally took months to get over the initial grief and discomfort I went through back then. Recently, though, like 2 or 3 months ago, I heard from Mr. Lucas, who notified me of this great honor, and started reflecting back on things. Like how everything went down 30 years ago that day, botched up a chunk of my high school memories for so long. How I deep-sixed the rest of my NBC soccer career along with it. Like how the mere mention of the words penalty kick still haunts me today. Until tonight. Because tonight you made me realize that it wasn't bad, it wasn't all bad, and my contributions and accomplishment meant something, here in Northern. I realized I will never rid myself of the ghost. But tonight's new memory of this great honor should put a real hurting on that penalty kick guy. Thank you all very much. To the Hall of Fame committee and everyone that helped organize this, Michelle, thank you very much. To Mr. Lucas, thank you for everything. You were a big supporter of Joe Lynch. To my teammates, my goalie, Jeff, Matt, my brother, Paul and Anthony, couldn't have done without you. To my wonderful parents, when two great thoroughbred racehorses meet, the statistical evidence, year in and year out, since they started tracking it in 1904, proves that 1 out of 5 offspring usually turn out to be the Hall of Famer. This is from Google, Mom, Dad, thanks so much. Thanks for breeding me. And Dad, you know what that makes you, right? To my 4 brothers, you think I had a big head before, right? Look at the size of that thing. How can it get any bigger? Thanks for your support, guys. To all the teachers at Northern who helped me get where I am today, thank you. I'm especially grateful to Mrs. Watson, who recently passed last year, who I had the great fortune of knowing after high school. Mrs. Watson attended many of our games and was a big supporter. To Kelly, I have one question for you. In your wildest dreams, did you ever think you'd end up with a Hall of Fame athlete? Well, congratulations, honey. Starting tonight, you'll be sleeping with one. To everyone in attendance tonight, my coaches, my family, my friends, Rob Montalbano, Tom Dwyer Sr., who I wish could have been here tonight.
He's here.
Senior.
Oh, junior.
His father, yeah. To the other inductees, congratulations to you tonight, and thanks for allowing me to share the night. I got one last request. As I head back to my seat, I'd like to try to create one more memory ghost tonight. My niece Mariah's birthday tonight. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
All right, so we have one final athlete award to give out tonight, which will be followed by our honorary and our team award. So as you make your way back to your seats, we'd like to introduce our final athlete award. All right, so our next inductee will be Miss Lindsay Mouse gabdury, and the presenter of this award will be Coach Brian Wolverton. Coach, come on up.
Thank you. I've been coming to this banquet for since the beginning, and I can honestly say that I will forever remember Joe's speech and Doug's introduction. It was fantastic, very memorable. As I have been preparing for the last 10 years to give this speech for Lindsay, many a car ride home from the field or from school, I'd spend thinking about her and just how much she meant to me and, more importantly, to Northern softball. Before I talk about Lindsay, though, I'd like to recognize her parents, Gail and Tim, and to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share your daughters for a little bit of time. You know how special they are to me, and I can't thank you enough. Tim, thank you for all that you did for us, from the batting practice to the, getting into, chewing the girls out a little bit when they needed it, to just being there for me as a coach and helping me to grow. It really has meant a lot to me. I could talk to you about Lindsay and her accomplishments, but anyone that knows Lindsay knows that she wouldn't want to hear that. Yes, she was an all-county player, an all-South Jersey player, all-state, Division I scholarship athlete, but Lindsay was so much more than that. Lindsay would want to be remembered as a teammate. To Lindsay, and you hear it all the time, people saying that it's about the team, but Lindsay lived it. She lived every bit of her life about the team. I've always said, with no disrespect to Mike or Mrs. Haynes, that if I was starting a team, that Lindsay Mouse would be my first round draft choice, because I coach boys, I coach girls, I coach football with Coach for a number of years, I coach softball, and I have never in my life met a better leader. Someone that was able to get more out of her teammates than Lindsay, and she did it at first by example. She never complained. She was the first in every drill, and she finished last in every drill, never leaving a teammate behind. My first memory of Lindsay was her freshman year. It's our first practice. It's 5 o'clock in the morning on March 1st, and I had heard that we had transfer from Alaska, and she was pretty good, but I really hadn't seen her play softball. And we had a pretty good team coming back. We had a Division I second baseman that went on and did great things. Is coaching up at UMass. And as a coach, you try and send a message that first day. We want to up the level a little bit. So I'm getting on the second baseman, and it's as if nothing she can do is right, and I'm really riding her. She's really making every play. So I'm like, all right, that's it. Get out, Mouse, get out there. And I'd never hit her a ground ball, and I couldn't hit a ball past her, and I can hit. And I said to myself then, we need to find a place for this girl on the team. Luckily, we had a spot. The only spot that we had was catcher, and Lindsay had said that she had caught a little bit at 12 and under, but never really was a catcher. But she ended up catching every inning of every game for us that year. Not to, Mr. Hoyer, you stole my thunder a little bit. So I have to apologize to Lindsay. We're in a sectional semifinal game, and we're playing against Burlington Township, and the game goes late. It goes extra innings, and we're about the 10th inning, and Lindsay, she's our catcher. She's our only catcher. She comes up to me, Coach, I really have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, Lindsay, it's the 10th inning. It's going to be over in a minute. You can make it. Well, that game ended about an hour and a half later in the 19th inning, and I don't know if her bladder's survived since, but fast forward a couple of weeks, we're playing in the state final her freshman year, and the second baseman that's going full ride to UMass leads off the fourth inning with a double. 2 batters later, 2 outs. Scrawny little freshman comes up to the plate, single to left field, scores the winning run. We win a state championship, and Northern softball has never been the same since. Lindsay means a lot. She means a lot to me. To paraphrase Tom Cruise from Jerry Maguire, you made me want to be a better coach. I spent the next 3 years trying to find ways to break Lindsay Mouse. I would stay up at night thinking of drills and ways to work, and then I finally realized after sharing drinks with her father one night that it wasn't possible, because just to give you a little story, when the girls were infants, Tim would ball up socks, white socks, and to get them ready so that they wouldn't be afraid of the ball as their children, he'd throw the balled up socks and hit them in the face. That's a true story. Yes. But just to share with you a little bit about how much of a teammate Lindsay is. So we're going into her senior year, and I think we're preseason number 3 in the state, and we've all got high expectations. We're in our last scrimmage. It's like the 3rd week of March. We're at Maple Shade. It's the town that I live in, and it's the last out of the scrimmage. Doesn't mean anything. Lindsay's catching, foul tip back, goes to barehand it, and compound dislocation of her ring finger on her throwing hand. And now, does this reach over here? Just so you can see, this is the bone, this is her finger, and that's the bone that's sticking out. Needless to say, we spent a long night in the emergency room, in 2 different emergency rooms, right? We had to go over to UPenn. Lindsay missed 3 games. That was the 3rd week of the preseason. We had another week before the regular season started. We had 3 games before we left for our spring trip to Florida. Dr. Street, you can't fire me over this. It was 15 years ago. Another story, true story. I don't know that she ever got cleared. Aaron, I apologize. Mr. Mouse also worked in the orthopedic unit over on McGuire, and Lindsay came in the day of the Florida trip with a note from her orthopedist that she was cleared. We slid it under the trainer's door, and I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that he had her take her own stitches out. But my biggest memory of Lindsay is just how much Northern softball grew while it was your team. And I say that because after that game-winning hit your freshman year, it became your team. It was no longer my team, and it became your program. And I learned as much from you as I'm sure you ever learned from me. And Lindsay, I love you. Congratulations. Thank you.
First, I want to thank the Northern Burlington Hall of Fame Committee and congratulate all the other inductees. I also want to thank all my family that was able to come. when Coach called me a few months ago, I actually originally thought he was calling me about our state championship team that was inducted a couple years ago. When he explained that it was an individual award, I was in disbelief, and I was extremely humbled. You see, when I was growing up, I was never the most talented kid. Matter of fact, there are still times when I think back and wonder how and why on earth my dad ever stuck with me and continued to work with me. I can remember going to the field with my dad and my sister for hours watching him play slow pitch softball. And in between games, he would have my sister and I out on the field. And just as always, she's my younger and very talented sister. She always wanted to go first. So she'd jump out there, and my dad would pick up the bat and two-hand, as hard as he could, swinging and pelting balls at my sister. And I'm standing behind her, petrified. I didn't want anything to do with those ground balls. That's actually when I thought, maybe I'll go to the outfield. Little did I know, or I think little did my dad know, first time I ever tried to catch a fly ball, I about broke the front tooth in my head. So that wasn't really, that wasn't really a place to be either. One of the first few times that I took the field with my dad, he told me that I'm an infielder, your sister's an infielder, your brother plays infield, you're meant to be an infielder, so get in there and stand in front of the ball. There were no face masks back then. I don't know if those of you have seen players nowadays. And so I literally just would stand there and take balls off my chest, my face, whatever I had to do. Despite the lack of natural talent, my dad did stick with me and push the fundamentals on me. He always preached the importance of hard work, repetition, hustle, and dedication. He taught me how to be a leader through his actions and inspired me to be the best player I could be. As my sister and I started to play on an organized team, because it did start just with him, my dad started to attempt to throw batting practice to us, but not just any type of batting practice. This was full circle, as hard as he could, Jenny Finch type of pitching. My dad knew if we were going to continue to play the sport, he was going to have to learn how to pitch to us. At first it was just painful, physically painful. My sister and I would go home with bruises all over us until finally one Christmas Santa brought catching gear. Now originally that was for my sister. However, when my dad would finally throw strikes to me with a catcher and still hitting my sister, he told me to gear up. And what started as a target for my dad turned into some of the best softball experiences and memories of my life. So thank you, Dad. But more importantly, thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for showing me what dedication and hard work can do. Thank you for believing in me and holding high expectations for me, even when I thought they were impossible. You've been a huge inspiration, and this honor is a direct product of all the time you've invested in me. I love you. So my sister was not able to be here, but I did need to speak for her. Competing with her meant I had to put in way more work than her. Nothing came easy for me like it did for her. I had to put in more reps, more running, more lifting, you name it. I had to go above and beyond. As I got better, she got better, which continued to push me. She's always been my biggest role model, my biggest competitor and motivator, my closest teammate, and my best friend. She's been through the good days, the bad days, and definitely the ugly days with me, and was a huge reason I was able to make it to the next level. She's a big reason I'm standing up here today, and I owe her a huge thanks for never making anything easy for me, because ultimately that helped shape the athlete that I became. Two other people I owe a huge thank you to are my mom and my younger brother, TJ. Every athlete needs some fans, and these two were my biggest. Every game, I could count on them to be there and believe in me, and some days more than I believed in myself. I could count on my mom to always be so positive, even if I had the worst game. Good try, baby. You'll get it next time. I hated those words. I can't tell you how many times I heard them, actually. TJ would always have some sarcasm or joke to lighten the mood. They both sacrificed many hours to come out and support me, and I thank you both for your unconditional love. I love you both, and I appreciate everything. My high school career was hands down some of the best days of my life. I never realized how lucky I was until I got to college and heard all the high school horror stories. 1-0, or one game winning seasons, teammates that didn't care, especially coaches that were just out there for a paycheck. At Northern, softball wasn't just a sport that we played. Softball was our life, and it started at the top with Coach Wolverton. Coach created an atmosphere where hard work and dedication were expected. He was so excited to start every year that I don't think we ever really ended the year prior. Every fall and winter, we would be running, conditioning, weightlifting, and my favorite, box jumps in the hallway. My modeling career was shot after I skinned my shins a few times on those box jumps. Wolf had us in the weight room trying to outlift the football players. He had us out on the track trying to outrun the track stars. And again, in the hallway, ripping up all of our shins, trying to out-jump each other. Everything was a competition with my team, which is why we were so good. It was a healthy competition. It was a better way to put it. When we weren't working on our game, we were at the Eagles games and Philly games and concerts, fundraising for our field and our Florida trip every spring. The night before opening day, we would go to the general store as a team, and we would get some dinner, and then we would head back to the high school. And I tell this story all the time, people think I'm nuts, but we would spend the night at Northern Burlington. Don't know if that's going to get you in trouble. We would have team activities, but at midnight, when it was legal to practice our first day, midnight, we were in the gym practicing for a few hours, right? We're getting in our work. And then we would go to sleep at the school, and we would get up at, 9, or it was a couple hours of sleep, and we would practice again. And Coach Wolf would always say, listen, we got 2 practices in before anybody has had 1. It was a good way to put it. During spring break, while everybody else was getting practices in, or maybe they were just giving spring break off, we would be traveling to Orlando to play in a big tournament down there against very competitive high school teams. Coach knew to be the best, you had to play the best. Florida wasn't all about softball, though. It was a family vacation. And family, I mean our team. The reason we were so successful wasn't solely because of the talent or the hard work. It was the team camaraderie. Wolf always found a way to unite everyone all 4 years that I was there. So it wasn't a fluke. In Florida, we would get 3-day hopper passes to Disney World. We would visit medieval times every year and cheer on our favorite night and stay at the Hojo's, as we like to call it. Howard Johnson with the China buffet attached to it. That was important. During regular season, Wolf continued to unite us by putting us through some unique punishments, quote unquote. 3-mile runs with bats over our heads because 3 girls struck out, but we could only go as fast as our slowest runner. 26 laps around the bases, that equals a mile if anybody's wondering. We had to do that once too. I was about dizzy after that. Runs to the white building and back, which most of you probably won't understand, but it was a lot further than it looked. And partner resistance drills after every game. Win or lose, we still stayed at the field and continued to work. Most teams thought we were nuts. I was the captain for 3 years that I was at Northern, and Wolf, it was the easiest 3 years of leading a team because the camaraderie was the best that I've never played for a team that had better camaraderie than my high school team. And that's a big, it's because of you. I'm proud to say that I've been a part of all the softball banners, hanging in the gym, all 4. I was a part of the first softball state championship for Northern. That memory ghost, Joey, we lost my senior year in state. I'll never forget that one. Won it my freshman year and lost it my senior year. It was horrible. We talk about that sometimes. But, Wolf, thank you for teaching me how to be a winner. You were like a second dad to all of us and dedicated all of your time to my success and those that I've played with. And I know Donna can attest to that. We too have been through the good and the bad, definitely the ugly. But you've always been a great support. I will always cherish the memories that I have from Northern. My husband probably gets tired of hearing me reminisce sometimes of the good days. And I thank you for all the life lessons that I've learned while being a Northern softball player. I love you from the bottom of my heart as well, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything you did for me, so thank you.
I'm sorry. Where's this thing?
Thank you.
Very cute. One more time, Lindsay Mouse. Good luck. All right, so in the break, I talked to Antron Brown's father, who's here, Al Brown, and he's going to come up a little bit and say some nice things. Antron has probably, of all the Hall of Famers that have ever come to Northern Burlington, been the most difficult person I've ever had to get in touch with. I think it took us like 4 weeks, and it went through Michelle, and then it went through Brian, and finally they said, Dan, you have to like get in touch with this guy and just throw out something like you have a doctorate, and maybe he'll get scared and call you back or something. So Antron Brown called me up. I think the first time I ever talked to him was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I talked to his agent for about 2 weeks. And we were back and forth, and he's like, I promise he's going to call you, I promise he's going to call you. And to be honest, I just thought to myself, I can't believe a drag racer is this famous. I thought the guy was going to call me back like 2 days from now or something. And but he is. I mean, he's a serious celebrity, and he called me up, I think the first time, Mr. Brown, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, and I remember like answering the phone and my wife just looking at me, like, who the hell's calling you at 1:30 in the morning? And I picked it up, and he was very happy. I mean, I'm sure if you've ever talked to Antron, he's the happiest person I think I've ever talked to. Even at 1:30 in the morning, he was just very friendly. Hey, Danny, how you doing? Well, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry it's real late. I need to call you in. And I just hopped off, and I said, Antron, what country are you in? And he said, Indiana. I said, okay, so it's 1 o'clock there too? And he said, yeah. So, you know, without further ado, we did get in touch with Antron. We're very happy to bring him in tonight. I'd like to introduce his father, Mr. Al Brown. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to accept the award for Antron in the Northern Burlington Hall of Fame. And first of all, I'd like to introduce the rest of my family that's here. His grandmother, which actually, she's the drill sergeant of the family. I give a lot of credit to her, being that Antron turned out to be the unique individual that he is, even though I'm retired out of the Army 28 years and my brother's retired at 26. But it's been really a hard, long road for Antron. Again, being with that he does 26 races throughout the whole year. I mean, all over the country, from California to Gainesville, Florida. I mean, all out west. And I can say this, that when I was on the bike team with him for 8 years totally, we were with my cousin Troy Vincent, and I was like the assistant crew chief on the bike. And when him and Angel teamed up together for the U.S. Army, we were actually in Denver, Colorado, when the 4-star general flew in by helicopter, and we were inducted with the Army for 4 years. And I remember him saying, well, you just recruited 9 million more fans. And Antron would definitely be very proud to be here to accept this award. Unfortunately, he's racing, and I just told him, son, you have to, you're contracted to do what you do. And again, as he always does, after he wins every race, all the glory goes to his Lord Savior, number one, and then everything else falls into place. Because without him in your life, you have nothing. And I'm a firm believer in that as a witness, to seeing him in some of the mishaps that he's had in his cars and was able to walk away. We're all in this for one thing, and God is really riding with him. I mean, he's been with him, and by me being there witnessing some of his casualties that he's had. But I mean, it's in all motorsports. You got NASCAR, I mean, you have boat racing, all kinds of racing. But as a father, our team motto was one team, one mind, one purpose. And that's the ability to work together, get along together, and pray together. So, I mean, again, he couldn't be here, but he would love to be here, and thank all the staff of the Hall of Fame for picking my son and inducted him in. It's been a very, very pleasure to be here this evening.
One more time for Antron Brown's father and Antron Brown. If you do get a moment and you get a chance to go to the Hall of Fame program this year, read about Antron, but just so you know, this one paragraph that Mr. Lucas wrote just kind of epitomizes some of his accomplishments. But he's achieved 3 world championships in 2012, 15, and 16. And so he's obviously a current celeb in this field. The last 2 back-to-back. And he and his team have entered the 2017 season as the most dominant racing crew in Top Fuel racing. He has won the past 2 NHRA Top Fuel World Championships and 3 of the past 5 Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series titles. His team has recorded the most wins in Top Fuel over the past 8 years by completing 43 wins, ranked 4th in all-time victories. His overall 45 titles ranks 4th all-time in Top Fuel, and his 61 overall titles are the 8th most among NHRA's 4 professional categories. He's the first racer ever to eclipse the 3.7 second mark, and which means basically in a quarter mile he goes at 9.2 seconds, which is an average of 165 miles per hour. That's what Antron drives daily. Okay, so one more time, congratulations for Antron. Antron did send a video, so if you could direct your attention up here, I'd like to share that with everybody now.
This is Antron Brown, 3-time NHRA Mellow Top Fuel champion and Northern Burlington
So that was nice. I mean, Antron sent that over, and extremely humble, and we want to thank him once again for sending that over. So, Antron Brown. I do want to take a moment. Sometimes this part of the night gets a little bit unpredictable because we're not sure who showed up and who hasn't, but I know that there are some members here tonight from our 1972-1973 basketball team. If you are a member of that team, could you please stand up right now? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite those gentlemen to come on up, and I'm sure they may have suspected that this was going to happen, or they did not, but nobody wants to hear about the 1972-73 basketball team from me because I wasn't even born yet, boys, so I'd like you to come on up here and talk about that decade a little bit and tell me about it. Which one flew in from Salt Lake City? Oh yeah, we had some people come from quite a distance. We're happy to have you guys here. So, without further ado, the 1972-1973 boys basketball team, NJSIA South Central Jersey basketball champions.
First of all, I'm Michael Shore, Mike Shore, not Richard Shore. Rich was my brother a year behind me, so he'd appreciate being listed on the paper here. But I had, first of all, I want to thank Coach Perillo for what he said earlier about how important the educational part of this experience is. I don't mean to butter up to the management here, but my own personal journey is testament to the education I got back in the day when we had split schedules. How many people remember when Northern had split schedules? Not many. Not many now because it was a long time ago, right? But we got up at an ungodly hour in the morning, went to school in the morning. For football, it was great because the coaches had us for an extra hour every day. Basketball, it was pretty miserable because we had to wait till the school cleared out. We had access to the courts on campus, and we were there till 8:30 at night or later. By the time we got home, it was probably 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So it made for long days. But in that time, the education we got was always top notch. Personally, for me, I went to college at Burlington County. Later on, I went to University of Texas, electrical engineering, graduated in the Honor Society, went on to the Air Force Institute of Technology, where my graduate thesis was used in the Star Wars program, otherwise known as SDI. So again, just to reinforce what Coach Perillo said earlier, the education we got at Northern and are getting at Northern, for any of you currently going there or have kids there, is probably just as top notch as it ever was. By the way, what you've done with the campus there is amazing. I went by there this afternoon. I was the sixth man on this wonderful 72-73 team. It was an amazing journey. I got to watch Mitch Heaps, Greg Krause, who you've already honored previously as an individual to the Hall of Fame, Dale Wainwright, who couldn't be here, Bobby Richardson and Marvin Ames, who couldn't make it tonight either. But those five guys, I had the unique privilege of being the sixth man on that team and watching and working with them every day. But for all the great things that we did on the official court, there were hours and hours and hours of practice. And that's where you really get to know each other. You become brothers. You share so many things in that environment. So it was just an amazing year. And I want to thank you. For me personally, this is my second time. I was also on the 71 football team that you honored 6 years ago. So I kind of have an unusual experience with that. But again, thank you all. Thanks to the Hall of Fame committee for, again, honoring our teams. And this team in particular was very amazing experience, both playing in it and watching it from the bench. Thank you again to the Hall of Fame team and to the school. Thank you very much.
Don't really know what to say. I just wish our whole team were here. You'd see we had 2 6'8" guys, Dale Wainwright and Greg Krause. And then we had Mike Shore. And then we had 3 guards that were all about 6 foot, but could run fast and handle the ball and jump. That's, we were a running team, and no team we played could ever keep up with us. Once we got the game running, the other team was in trouble. It was a great year. The official record was 28-2. One was a 1-point loss to Florence, and the other was a 13-point loss in the state finals. We pulled out some overtimes during the year. We had 2 overtime wins during the year, and then in the state finals, we went up against Sterling, which was a very tough team. And we were underdogs in almost every state tournament game that we played. But we ended up beating Sterling by an overtime, a single overtime. Just hard work and a lot of hustle. Then the next game, we had to play Collingswood, and that was a double overtime, which we ended up winning also. And me and the starters indicated we played every second of every minute of that game. Coach Black says, I guess they're just in good shape. And then we went on to play Wall. Wall didn't seem to be too hard. They were kind of cocky. They thought they were going to tear down our 2 big giants. And they were announcing that on in the news and everything. And we kind of took offense to that. We went there, and in the first half, we had about a 25-point lead. And then we just held on to that. Then it kind of, as the game went on, it got closer, but it really was not one of the hardest games that we played. We had four players that averaged double figures. It was just, it was a great part of my life that I'll never forget. The fun we had. Most of our games were pretty easy. It was a lot of 3 nights, just fun running basketball. That's what I remember about it.
Hi, I'm Paul Tutel, also a member of the team that lost in the finals of the state championship Group 3. But what I remember about that team, and what I really remember was the experience that it kind of brought to Northern Burlington. I don't think that the school had ever gotten behind the team quite like they did that year. We had, I want to say, 12 and 13 busloads of students following us to playoff games. And it was unbelievable. It was almost, I don't want to say like Hoosier, but it kind of reminded you of that atmosphere. Here was a school from, South Central New Jersey, slaying giants. We slayed some giants. I got a lot of opportunity to watch this team because I was a junior and I was pretty far down the pecking order on the bench. But I played hard against these guys in practice. And, I I guess I was like the Rudy of the team. But I remember this young man right here. I used to pride myself in playing good defense, and I used to try to stop this guy. This guy could jump out of the building, and he had the quickest first step of any person I've ever played against. I played against some good players in my high school days. He could flat out fly. It's kind of a shame that only the three of us are here because it was magical that year. And anybody that was here and remembers that could, would share in that same feeling that we all had. And I also remember a really cool thing that happened when we made it to the state final meeting. There was the superintendent of schools at that time, Maurice Hill. And Mr. Hill, Dr. Hill, told the entire student body in Northern Burlington that they had Monday off. He gave us a day off for the victory, for going to the state final. Jim, you beat that. I don't know if you made that day. But again, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee, Northern Burlington. Some of you know I'm still local. My kids went through the system at Northern. I served with Jim on the Board of Education for a few years, and I am very proud of Northern and all the people here tonight, all the inductees, congratulations. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Let's hear it for 1972-73 basketball team. You know, if you guys can ever get the boys rallied and they want to come back to like next year's Hall of Fame, the tab will be on us. Seriously, we'd like to see the whole group back together, and we tried our hardest to make sure the schedules would work out, but we would make that happen. I do want to say Greg Krause has that the memory ghost, Joey, and for that reason alone, I still refer to it today. I actually had the honor of speaking with Greg Krause on the phone when we were trying to recruit all the boys. And he has, to me, like one of the most powerful Athletic Hall of Fame speeches because, 40 plus years later, he sat up here and talked about how he was walking out the 400 hallway and all the teachers came out and they were clapping. And exactly like you said, the Hoosiers atmosphere with 13 fan buses loaded to go. And the only thing that he wanted to do was win that game. And then in front of everyone here just barely could get it out that he wishes that he still could have done that. And that for me will stick around forever. And that's what I talk about when we talk about the Athletic Hall of Fame. I hope that you guys did catch one of those moments from some of these people tonight and that you listened to those stories. On a side note, Greg Krause, who wasn't here tonight, is out on an athletic recruiting trip. He was voted the Player of the Century for South and Central Jersey. So that was like quite an honor. Just gives you an idea of the type of people that these guys were playing with too. I hope that you guys did get a story or two to take home with you. I hope that you feel full of Northern Burlington pride. Make sure you don't drive and turn on your phone and text because you've been through 2 hours of deprivation now without your phone. Get home safe to your kids and your family members. And I'll hear one more round of applause for all of our Athletic Hall of Fame inductees from 2017. And come join us next year for the 11th Annual Athletic Hall of Fame. Good night, everybody.